Rescheduling, I think, is great. I really do think that Chuck Schumer is going to grab the Safe Banking Act
You
like
do.
a football and beeline down the field to try to beat the rescheduling effort to the punch.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to our latest Trade to Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking in 2 days in a row now for cannabis as the stocks continue to rally, and all is well in the investor community as we're seeing a lot of excitement. I feel alive again. Feel alive. Air Wellness. Anthony Verrill. Good to see you, sir. Your lottery
Yeah.
ticket, 2 days. Pretty impressive.
It's been good so far. I think it's up around 58% the last 2 days. I'll take it.
58%.
Yeah. I mean, it's undervalued. It's got a low share count. I mean, it's undervalued in my opinion. It's got a pretty low share count, 70 million shares.
Wow.
And I mean, I think it's on everybody's radar as far as what can be the potential 10x. I think the tier ones, they're more of like a 2 to 4x from here in like a bull case. AYRs just happen to be right. Not right all
Yeah.
the time, but happen to be right in this instance.
Yeah. A reminder, all views of the Trade of Black podcast, the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or guests as investment advice. And the views on this podcast are solely to be informational and are not investment advice. TDR lead financial writer, Benjamin A. Smith. Good to see you. Feeling
Good to
alive
see you
again. Yes.
guys.
Feeling good.
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's finally good to see to have a a bullish impulse for a change instead of just the droning bear market, which has been the case for probably the better part of 10 quarters. So it's good to see this momentum shift.
Yeah. And the research and coverage that we've been providing this industry for quite some time, there are times where I'm like, we're thinking, where are we going with this? Like, when is this going to make a turn? But now,
Yeah.
based on a lot of the coverage that we've been doing for the past 3 to 6 months, you can see a lot of the information by following this closely is now helping. And more importantly, it's great to see that, we've got some positive momentum 2 days in a row now.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I almost have a little bit of imposter syndrome watching the stocks move like the way they have. I mean, I'm just sitting here waiting for them to turn over. It's yet to happen. I mean, I think tomorrow's going to be a big tell, especially being the end of the week. Do people want to hold these stocks going into a holiday weekend, and they're that bullish, or is the trade coming off and they'll reload next week?
Yeah. Well, you guys probably may or may not look at things differently. So I'll start with you, Ben. With the sector rallying strongly for the past 2 sessions, do you think this rally has staying power?
I do. I must say, I was very
Wow.
impressed by the action today. Not so much yesterday. I actually expected a little bit more off that announcement, but sometimes it's hard to tell on the first day because there could be some interest, some short positions sort of holding up the price action. But today we really saw it get going off the open again. It hit daily and weekly resistance around the 725 level, which is pretty robust resistance there, and it really showed a lot. Volume was just as strong as it was today as it was on Thursday, and there's a lot of interest. It got covered in all the big media, CNBC and the like. So
Which
it
is
was a
huge.
very, very robust day, and I was really impressed with the price action. A little bit of sell off going into the closing bell, which is not too unusual, but I think overall very constructive. And yes, I do think it has staying power, just because that rescheduling announcement is something to look forward to. It's not going to happen right away, but it's something that investors can finally look at and say, look, if this happens, then uplisting could be down the pike. 280 is going to be eliminated, and there's a lot of catalysts that it unlocks.
Yeah. I spoke to an analyst this morning, and he said he's connected to every pension plan you can think of in North America. Right now, this is obviously being driven by retail, which is no surprise. Saying all that, he did think that there could be some profit taking tomorrow afternoon going into the weekend. But even if that's the case, Anthony, to Ben's point, like, this has staying power. Do you see it just reigniting again next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got legs. I mean, I think that we need to kind of pause for a minute and not get ahead
Yeah.
of ourselves. Like, this is
Yeah.
an announcement. This isn't anything that's definitive. We still have processes to go through, and I mean, we've got a decent amount of time to go. That being said, there's finally light at the end of the tunnel that you can see, and there's actual progress being made in Washington with the bodies that we needed to be getting done through. Um, Rescheduling, I think, is great. I really do think that Chuck Schumer is going to grab the Safe Banking Act
You
like
do.
a football and beeline down the field to try to beat the rescheduling effort to the punch. It gives him a political win. It makes it a bipartisan win. versus this purely being a Joe Biden win with rescheduling. I think we're going to see some political theater here, and I think we'd all be better off for it. If they can get safe passed as well, it's a win-win scenario.
I think that's
Wow.
a very good point too that Anthony brings up. We got to remember that it wasn't rescheduled; it's just a reschedule
Yeah,
recommendation. There's a lot of assumptions and almost universal assumption that it will go to Schedule 3. That there's no way that they could do Schedule 2, but that's just an assumption at this point. We do not know that. If this was an actual reschedule, the price action probably would have been in double or triple the amount that it actually was. So
Well,
and there's also a big rescheduling process to go as well. So this is not something that's going to happen
that's
overnight, or it probably won't even happen this year. If you look at Pablo Zuanich's research, he thinks it's going to happen by mid of 2024. So in terms of affecting the bottom lines of these companies, we're still 3 or 4 quarters out. So very good news, but you got to look at the timelines involved and
yeah,
keep a level head.
yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm hoping. That's why I'm hoping good old Chuck just tries to seize the opportunity and gets that bill to a floor vote, gets it moving forward, and beats him to the punch. And then we get rescheduling coming down the pike. Like, so I think Pablo's right. Mid
So if that were to
2024 is when we
happen,
start to see this formulate.
Jason kind of outlined yesterday a potential decision by the DEA by Q1 of 2024. If Schumer were to beeline, as you said, could we see something at, well, you don't know, but if that were the case,
December.
yeah,
You can do something as close as December. I don't think. I mean, we're very. This is highly speculative here.
I know.
Best case scenario is Chuck takes it, whips everyone together, and does his job for once.
Yeah.
Versus talking.
Well,
So I mean,
some of
yeah,
the,
this is very speculative, but
I,
we're getting there.
I know you were saying, Ben, like we need to take a step back. Some of the sentiment online yesterday was descheduling or nothing. They questioned actually this, recommendation, so to speak. Um, what I mean by that is like the FDA and came under the purview of the FDA, and whether cannabis facilities have to be retrofitted to GMP standards, which many of these facilities are not. So, do you think investors are overlooking some of these uncertainties right now, Ben?
That's a very good point, and I think potentially, I don't think I don't have the answer to this. I don't think anybody really has the answer. But technically speaking, on a federal level, the FDA has a purview over Schedule 3 products. So, and these products are supposed to be manufactured in a GMP or Good Manufacturing Practices facility, right? So it's things like that which people think that they might come into play with these cannabis companies operators. And if you have to retrofit a 200,000 foot indoor grow, for example, that would be quite expensive. So people don't know if the industry will be subject to that. I certainly don't know, but there's still these questions floating around, and that's why some of the analysts like Pablo Zuanich and the Bernstein analyst today, his name eludes me right now, but they're saying that in a way, Schedule 3 offers more questions and answers because of now it's going to an FDA scheduled drug
Yeah, yeah,
as opposed to no drug. But I don't know. I tend to think that the dispensary model will keep in place. States' rights and state laws will overtake that, supersede it, and things will remain the same. But I'm not sure. It
I think
just there's some uncertainties out there
I
about
think
that.
he's bang on with that. Don't you think, Anthony?
I hope so. If these MSOs have to retrofit their grow facilities to EU GMP standards, forget about it. Like
Right.
the capex spend will be crazy. You might as well keep 280E there because it'd be better on the balance sheet than to have to deploy all that capital to go to a GMP standard. But I do think I agree with Ben. It's going to probably hit Schedule 3. Everything will be mandated down to the state. I don't think the model changes. They don't want to kneecap these companies. They still want
No.
the revenue. They still want the jobs. I mean,
Yeah,
they're trying to do a political win. They're not trying to cause more turmoil and let pharma come in and
I agree.
the capture the industry per se.
You
Yeah.
wonder what, again, this analyst I spoke to said today that, pension plans are following this space closely. They've been burned by obviously the FTX. There was a teacher's pension plan out of Toronto, Canada, that lost $94 million in last year's FTX fiasco. And they're watching this space closely, but we'll probably wait until it's absolute official when the
Oh, they're
DA
going.
does make an announcement. But when I heard that sounds encouraging if they're watching right now, right?
No, you're
They're
right,
going
and
to.
that's what's going
Yeah.
to keep the institutions out too, because institutions don't usually invest until they know for absolute certainty. So if you have
100%.
these sort of questions, this is going to be, and this rally 100% was mostly retail
Yes.
oriented, like your contact stated, and it probably will so until all these questions are definitively answered. So that's what makes me think that we're not in a FOMO situation right now, although we've seen FOMO price action for a couple days. I think the floor has been set and we're in a solid buy the dips sort of reality right now. If we get something like safe banking, we can go to the next level.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep that in mind. Institutions probably aren't coming in yet until, and a lot of these individual equities trade on the OTC anyway. So
Yeah, they can't.
they can't.
Yeah. Can you guys clear up the air? There's a couple people reaching out to like what happens to interstate commerce if indeed the DEA does reschedule this to a Schedule 3. It has
Well,
no correlation whatsoever.
zero.
Yeah.
Interstate commerce is not going to happen. I will go to the mat for that. If interstate commerce happens, I'll eat my lunch, but it's not happening. Like these businesses need to stay insulated. If we keep saying that the thesis is that it gets rescheduled on a federal level, then everything goes back down to states' rights. There's no way the governors of Illinois, New York, Florida, California, well, California maybe because they'd be the sole beneficiary of interstate commerce, but everyone else in the Midwest corridor and the East Coast, you need to insulate these businesses. You can't have Cali, Oregon, and Washington flooding the entire country with cannabis and just decimating the economics of the industry. That which would be the byproduct of interstate commerce.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of the question mark too, because FDA approved products can be obviously go over borders, right? So
Yeah,
people are thinking that if this goes Schedule 3, it becomes under an FDA purview. Then interstate commerce could technically be allowed under the rules.
I
So
don't see
there's still
it.
a lot of I don't know. I don't see it personally, but I'm just saying technically these questions are still out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a valid question that has merit, but at the same time, like if you go under the FDA, that means that it needs to have medical efficacy. I mean, we're way far away from any sort of cannabis study having medical efficacy or being able to be used as a medicine
But
Yeah.
that's one of the
in
things that the
in the
FDA
FDA sense.
That's one of the things that the that the DEA is going to look at to see whether they want to deschedule it Schedule 3, whether it has medical efficacy.
I
So,
mean, I forget what schedule it is. I think it's just a CSA, but I mean, alcohol and tobacco is where cannabis needs to go.
yeah.
To be completely honest, like Schedule 3 is a win, but the ultimate goal is to have it classified as the same as alcohol and tobacco,
Yeah.
which is just a controlled substance.
Yeah.
Yep.
It goes back to the question that we heard at Jason Wild's place down at the Benzinga conference in April, where let's focus on incremental versus comprehensive. Let's just get
Yeah,
one thing across the line and then see where we're at. As much as we have some positive, information from yesterday, and this is still only a recommendation, you get flooded with all these questions about all these things that could happen. And I think for now, it's just like one thing we should focus on: get the DEA to reschedule this from a Schedule 3. We
well,
don't have to worry about safe banking really all that much anymore. 280E goes away. These companies suddenly can become profitable.
yeah. I mean, increment. I mean, rescheduling is technically it's incremental in its purest form. I mean, we're not dealing with any governing bodies. We're dealing with regulatory agencies. They sign off, and then it's done. You're
Yeah,
not dealing with whipping votes together, having to get things passed, having to put more language in it, pile it up with a bunch of garbage to get it passed. Like this is very black and white.
yeah,
Can be a gift, it can be a curse. I think there's a lot of valid questions out there,
yeah,
but I mean, if we get this over the line, it's a big win either way.
yeah. We'll keep this short today, but you both think that there's some staying power definitely here.
And
Definitely,
Yep.
tomorrow's going to
Staying
be a
power with the caveat that I don't think we're going to see continued FOMO action, kind of like, for example, what we saw Canadian legalization in 2018.
oh no, that was
I don't think
crazy.
we're going to see
no,
that, but I think we're
no.
going to see solid floor set.
I think
The
that's
dips
the
will be
reason
bought.
why there's been a lot of attention towards this sector over the past 2 days, is because I think a lot of people believe, and I do too, this was the bottom. I think.
Yes, that I agree with. I do think we hit the bottom. I do think that this sets the floor at minimum.
I see
I mean,
Anthony.
to be frank, there's a lot of fuckery that goes on in this industry, and I mean, the companies are all on OTC exchanges. So I mean, if the shorts want to get cute and the volume dries up from retail coming into the space, like they can take it back the other way. I
Yeah,
don't think they're going to. I mean, I think that best case scenario, the Reddit crowd and the whole meme stock crowd gets involved, and you start to see them piling in to names in the space and take over. If that happens, then we're probably going to see 30% swings to the upside on a continued basis. moving forward. I mean, people are forgetting that a lot of these stocks used to have 2 and 3 handles in front of the prices, and now they're sitting in the single digits to sub $1. So I mean, there's room to run. It's just a question of, can we get it sustained?
Yeah. Before I let you guys go, just some notable things. MSO's ETF up 20% today. What was the volume for that?
I think the volume was
over 19
I know
million?
Cannabis. Yeah, it was around. I think it was around 20 million
20
at the
million.
end of the day.
What was
22.3 million shares. Canopy traded 180 million shares, and Tilray traded 86 million shares. So Tilray
Wow.
almost traded $250 million in
Wow.
dollar valued in stock.
Wow. It's
That's
amazing what a
impressive.
recommendation can do, right?
It's amazing what being on the NYSE and the NASDAQ does for your stock.
Yeah.
It still dwarfs, the whole MSO environment combined, just in Tilray.
Yeah.
We're
And
seeing
wait till you get
100
these uplistings. That's really going to help the Reddit crowd too.
Canadian LP.
180 million shares.
So outside of Canopy, what Tilray do?
Tilray did 86 million shares.
Cheapers. So Canadian LPs
Actually,
are
Tilray almost beat Tilray out-traded Canopy 2-1 in terms of dollar weighted average.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Columbia Care and Air Wellness, respectively, 41% and 33% up.
Yeah.
And for all of our viewers that obviously follow the SNDL story, they were up 8%. So
That's the name to watch.
I
That's
know.
the name to watch if this hits Reddit. If this starts to hit Reddit and the meme stock guys and the AMC people start to come into this trade, they're going to go straight for Sundial or SNDL, whatever you want to call it now. I know I'm going to get heat for calling it Sundial still, but I don't really change the name of things once they change. I still call X Twitter. So take it or leave it. But I think that'd be the sole beneficiary of the meme stock crowd coming in.
Yeah. Let our crew know too, our audience know that we've reached out to Zach George. So just waiting to hear back. Should be momentarily before we get him on next. But good stories to see. And we'll be following this obviously very closely tomorrow and see what we do heading into the weekend. But we'll have a full recap of the week. And I do want to dive in on our podcast on Sunday night. It was Mergers and Acquisitions Week in psychedelics. Obviously, the first one was Cybin acquiring Small Pharma, and now first pharmaceutical company, Otsuka, in an all-cash deal for $80 million, purchased Mindset Pharma. So we'll dive into psychedelics and figure out, again, if this is a trend of things to come, which we all believe is going to happen in the psychedelic space.
Definitely.
All right, gents. Listen, I appreciate the quick update, and we'll get this up on our YouTube channel right now, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. What's up, everyone? So what'd you think of the interview? Are there any more questions you want us to ask that you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.